Welcome to the Campus Energy and Sustainability Podcast. In each episode, we'll talk with leading campus professionals, thought leaders, engineers, and innovators addressing the unique challenges and opportunities facing higher ed and corporate campuses. Our discussions will range from energy conservation and efficiency to planning and finance, from building science to social science, from energy systems to food systems. We hope you're ready to learn, share, and ultimately accelerate your institution toward solutions. I'm your host, Dave Karlsgodt. I'm a principal at Fovea, an energy, carbon, and business planning firm. In this episode, you'll hear my interview with Dr. Lee Ball. Lee is the Chief Sustainability Officer at Appalachian State University in Boone, North Carolina. While our goal for this conversation was to talk about his podcast, Find Your Sustainability, we also get into a myriad of other topics. Lee will explain the robust sustainability program at Appalachian State and how he works with people there to find their connection to sustainability. We'll touch on the connections and disconnections of rural and urban communities with the natural world, and Lee will describe how he has approached working in sustainability in the heart of Trump country. We'll end with an overview of the App State solar-powered racing team. Please enjoy this May 31st, 2018 interview with Dr. Lee Ball. Well, Lee, it's great to talk to you again today. Thanks for coming on the show.
You're welcome.
Well, the original premise of this show was to talk about your podcast, Find Your Sustainability, which I have to say arguably has a much more creative title than this podcast does.
I did not come up with it.
Fair enough. But before we get into that, I thought you could start us off by just giving us a bit of background on yourself and maybe your role, and a little bit about the program at Appalachian State, assuming I pronounced that correctly.
Yeah. Yep. Appalachian, App State.
Great. We'll go with that, App State. Well, why don't you kick us off?
Sure. So I'm the university's Chief Sustainability Officer. I'm very fortunate to be in this role. But prior to that, I came to Appalachian State in 2002 and started teaching in our building science program. And so my specialty is residential construction, sustainable building design. And I was faculty here for 14 years. And became very involved with campus sustainability and leadership around campus sustainability and various different committees and working groups and task forces as we tried to organize ourselves. And then I had the opportunity to step into this position and lead our sustainability office, which is about 8 years old. It's a lot of fun. I'm able to work with both sides of the house, business affairs, academic affairs, and my position reports up through the chancellor's office. So we have a lot of credibility on this campus, and so we're mostly trying to help people find their connection to sustainability, and we do also a lot of fundraising around sustainability, and we run multiple different programs and projects, and help support other sustainability focused and related programs and projects all across campus. We're very lucky to have a lot of capacity within our office. We employ about 25. Well, this fall we'll have about 30 students on the payroll, and 6 full-time staff members, and it gives us the ability to really get a lot of work done. And again, like I said, support sustainability efforts across campus. The university is a great place because it's situated in the southern Appalachian Mountains and the Blue Ridge Mountains and northwest North Carolina. And we call it the high country. Our elevation here at campus is 3,333 feet. And it's a cooler place in the summer than most places in the south, and really most places on the East Coast. And it's a rural mountain community, and because it's a rural mountain community, the sense of thrift and the true sense of being conservative really is at the kind of the root of our kind of mission and really experience around sustainability. So the mountain people here they're very resilient. They have a lot of tenacity, and they know how to do more with less. And that, coupled with the beautiful surroundings of this mountain environment, I think is probably why sustainability emerged here at Appalachian State in the 60s and 70s, kind of on the academic side in the classroom. So there a lot of faculty started developing sustainability courses before we even used that word in the lexicon. And we had Earth Studies programs in the 70s. We had one of the first, we think, sustainable development degree programs in the country, and we have an appropriate technology program that's now called Sustainable Technology that also started in the 80s, and so we've been doing it for a long time, and we're just again, like I said, very, very lucky to have this dynamic sort of emerge here at Appalachian State. Just a lot of really committed students, a lot of committed faculty, a lot of committed staff. I came to it through the environment largely, undergraduate degree in biology and natural science. So it was the environmental connection and natural world that I was drawn to originally, and then my master's degree was in environmental education. I realized pretty early on that I wanted to not become a scientist, but I wanted to work in education and try to, teach people to care more. All along, though, I had construction experience. My father was a contractor, and so kind of, fallback jobs were, building and construction. I ended up doing stonemasonry and had my own business. And then because I had a master's degree, I had the opportunity to be an adjunct, and, thought that was kind of exciting until, I was, a struggling adjunct. A lot of people probably can relate to that. and I did that for a long time and kind of became a lecturer but decided to go back and get a doctorate in sustainability education from Prescott College. Great program. Made a lot of lifelong friends there, and had the opportunity to take the helm here at the Office of Sustainability at Appalachian State. And it's been 3 years since I've been in this role, and it's never a dull moment in my job.
Well, there's a lot to dig into there. I can certainly relate to the mountain culture comments. I grew up in rural western Montana, surrounded by the mountains, and I know what you mean by folks having a sense of resilience and conservatism in the truest sense of that word. Actually, I wasn't too far from the University of Montana, which I think used to play Appalachian State in football, if I remember correctly.
Yes, that was we did compete, and now Appalachian State has moved up to championship series, Division I, and okay. Football is big here as well.
Moving on up, I guess. Well, so you also mentioned you have 6 full-time staff and 30 students, and that seems like a pretty big department for a school of your size, and something I think a lot of other sustainability officers would be jealous of. But if I understand it correctly, you're quite a bit smaller than, say, UNC Chapel Hill, right?
Yeah, we're a mid-major, so 18,000 will probably be our enrollment this fall coming up.
Okay.
We've been experiencing a lot of slow and steady growth here, and we're lucky. We get a lot of support from our chancellor and leadership at Appalachian State, and sustainability is a part of our strategic plan. It's a really big part of our strategic plan, and so people take it seriously here.
Well, and the other thing you mentioned a second ago was something about fundraising. Tell me more about what you meant by that. Is that for your department or for the school at large, or tell me more?
Yeah, kind of all the above. I work at low and high levels here, and so we fundraise for specific projects, and also we're working on developing new parts of campus. We're currently imagining an innovation campus that's probably going to be close to a $70 million build out by the time it's all said and done. And there's a lot of strategy related to trying to raise that kind of money. Fortunately, I'm not the one to do all the heavy lifting on that, but I'm involved, and a lot of the conversations and a lot of the strategy behind it, and that project will have a big sustainability focus, and it's going to be all about sustainability, and and really how people can work together in collaborative teams to problem solve and to, create new ideas and technology. And it's going to be very transdisciplinary. It'll involve just about every college on campus.
Well, that leads into one of my questions for you. Would you say you're focused more on the operational aspects of sustainability or more on sustainability education?
Yeah, so, the Sustainability Office is standalone. We're not an academic unit. And so almost every college on campus has a sustainability program. Sustainable Development is a department. They focus on agriculture and policy, and more in the social science realm. But then we also have a sustainable technology degree program as well that focuses on mostly renewable energy. And our building science program has a big sustainable building design component. It's also in the same department with sustainable technology. It's actually called Sustainable Technology in the Built Environment. That's the department's name. Our College of Business does a lot as well. There's a sustainability minor, but there's also a sustainability track in their MBA program. And so, they're doing a lot. And then there's a ton in biology as well as environmental sciences, environmental studies. And so there's a lot of, sustainability integrated all throughout the university.
Yeah, it sounds like there's quite a bit going on there. How much of this was set up before you started? You said you'd been there about 3 years or so. And how much have you had to set up since you took on the role?
Yeah, well, so I came in 2002 as faculty, and then everything, with the exception of the Sustainable MBA, was already in place. So, there's a long history of faculty teaching sustainability in the classroom here. And when I stepped into the role of Chief Sustainability Officer, we just tried to find ways to support them, to get their students involved with projects on campus. We do a very good job of kind of using the campus as a living laboratory. Our staff here that are responsible for overseeing things related to energy efficiency and renewable energy and zero waste and our recycling. We have a very robust composting program. Our staff is really interested and good at working with students and faculty, which I see my peers at other institutions have barriers and different kinds of challenges related to try to get those two entities together.
Yeah, it sounds like your campus has quite a long history of making this work, and it's fun to hear about a campus that's been able to bridge that gap between the operations and education, because I know that's not necessarily the easiest thing to pull off all the time.
We certainly have bridged the gap. I think that is our strongest component to campus sustainability, where it's pretty seamless. When a student or a faculty member come to us with an idea, we're going to help them try to realize that idea. So if they want to, learn about data related to a building, our staff they've got it at their fingertips and they're willing to share. If they want to be involved with plan reviews with renewable energy systems or learn about, the process of, building buildings, we can plug them in. Our compost program is amazing. We have a 100-ton facility. We can accept 100 tons of input annually. We started composting in buildings across campus, but it's mostly started with our dining hall and with kind of pre-consumer waste in the dining hall. And now we're starting to offer composting at academic buildings and at residence halls, which we're going to be rolling it out very aggressively here this fall to every resident hall on campus and more academic buildings. So not making people compost, but, we're going to make it available so that people that do want to save their compost in their workspaces and classroom spaces will have a place to put it.
Right.
And there's just, there's a lot of research opportunity with that. And so students get really interested, involved, and we just, we have a lot of fun trying to help, students and faculty imagine how they can, make what they're learning more hands-on and applied.
A short editorial break here. We had forgotten to turn Lee's local recorder on when we were recording the podcast, but we remembered at this point, so you'll hear the sound quality get quite a bit better from this point forward. So, Lee, maybe you can tell us a little bit more about the specific roles you have within your staff. It sounds like having 6 full-time staff and all those students has been a pretty big enabler in helping you do all the great work you're doing.
It does. I mean, we have a communication team, and so we have one person that, her role is to manage all of our social media, our website, and she's fortunately also a very good graphic designer. We do a lot of outreach through our office, and so people often utilize our services to make a poster, or we want to make posters. There's all kinds of ways to message about sustainability, but a lot of it is through print media. And then so the student team that we have, they're kind of the boots on the ground that can kind of get everything out and hang it up, and we'll do sidewalk chalk sometimes, or we'll do a lot of tabling at different places, and that kind of communication part of what we do is critical. We also have someone that's involved with managing all of our campus renewable energy systems, and he's a data specialist for us. So he leads our STARS reporting process for ASHE. And, he has a couple of graduate assistants. Of those students, we have 4 or 5 GAs, typically graduate students, and then the rest are all undergraduate students. And so we get to cherry pick, GAs from different programs on campus that offer graduate work to their students. And we're fortunate to have really good relationships with faculty that can, help us find really good people. And then we have another staff person who is primarily responsible for managing zero waste on campus. We have a green office certification on campus. We help facilitate a lot of green events and zero waste events. And so she makes sure that all those programs are running smoothly, and we've got, warm bodies there to make sure that they're going to happen without a hitch. And I could go on because, her role is really expanded, and we're hiring an outreach coordinator. The job is currently posted. That person is going to be responsible for really managing all the students and allow our program manager to have more time to be able to make our programs even stronger. And then on top of that, we've got 2 administrative positions. So one kind of den mother, if you will, office manager that takes good care of all of us and onboards a lot of with the HR needs that we have and all the paperwork related to hiring all these students. And then we also have another, he is a finance manager and event planner. And we do a large conference for 500 people every year. It's happening in late July. And then we also, our university has a solar vehicle team. And the solar vehicle team is run through our office. We're the lead administrators for that project. And it's a student-run project, but we administer it. And he is the kind of lead administrator for that on the kind of admin, kind of purchasing and level. So there's a lot going on. And we're also about to hire a development officer.
Wow.
To help me with fundraising.
Yeah, it sounds like you've got a ton going on there, and I think anybody listening to this would be pretty jealous of that level of staffing. That's pretty amazing, the team you have going on there.
I know. Yeah, I know. We're very fortunate, very blessed.
So one thing I did want to ask you was, how are you funding all of this? I mean, do you have multiple revenue streams for this, or is this all coming from the central office?
Yeah, there's multiple revenue streams. We have to, we're very creative because sustainability has been integrated into our strategic plan. That helps with the kind of the funding piece. There's several funding streams and buckets of money, and some from the chancellor's office, some from business affairs, some from academic affairs, some from donors as well.
Well, yeah, so it sounds like it's maybe evolved a little bit over time.
It has. It's been an evolution. It started as an office of 2.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that leads me into another question, which is, you mentioned you had 30 students working for you. How are you dealing with the fact that, I know from my own experience, students are great, except for they eventually graduate. So then you've got them all trained up and they leave you.
We try to encourage them to go to grad school.
Okay.
Yeah. We sometimes hire them. We've got a couple of graduates working for us this summer that decided they didn't want to leave Boone quite yet, and so we were like, yeah, well, you stick around and work for us this summer. It'd be great to have you. So they're temps for the summer, part-time temps, but that's really difficult. We're proud of them and we want them to go off and save the world. It's hard to see them leave the nest because we invest a lot of time in them, but we're also really proud to see where they end up and to track their progress. And, it's exciting for them. It's exciting for us, but it is a little difficult with that institutional knowledge baton pass. STARS is probably the biggest example of where we struggle. And so that STARS reporting is a 3-year cycle. And by the time we get someone trained up to help us with the reporting process, mostly with all the data gathering, they're ready to leave.
Right.
And so our current student that is helping us with that was an undergrad and has stayed for graduate school. And so that's ideal. Often when we find, one of these shining stars as an undergraduate, we ask them if they have graduate, plans. And if they do, and if they're here, we're very fortunate, and especially if they want to keep working for us.
So you've got some sort of policy to clip their wings so they don't leave the nest?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I got it. All
right.
Not
totally.
Okay, fair enough. Well, so I wanted to get back to the original premise of this podcast, which was to talk about your podcast, Find Your Sustainability, which, as far as I understand it, is still pretty early days, I guess, right?
Yeah. It is. I don't have a lot of time to do it. I started, I guess the first one was in November 2015, and I didn't publish another one until 2017 in March, but it was, it takes a lot to sound engineer everything. It started because we have an amazing university communication group on campus that supports all the campus communication and marketing needs. And they have a podcast team and a podcast studio. They invited me to start a podcast and help me come up with a title, Find Your Sustainability. They're just so amazing to work with that I was just honored to do this. I'd never even thought about doing a podcast. I feel like I've barely gotten my legs, probably haven't yet. I just kind of stumbled my way through it. It's always like the introduction, the formal part that I have to be on sort of script and say the right thing that I stumble in my podcast, and we have to usually it's after my guest is gone and I'll go back and redo it. But once we kind of get into the flow like we're doing now, I'm very comfortable. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I've had some really interesting guests on. I try to interview our keynote speakers for our conference, or it's actually called the Appalachian Energy Summit. And so I try to interview those people when they're here, and then anybody else that, just find interesting. I've done 6, I believe, and 5 are published.
Right. Yeah. I've been impressed with some of the heavy hitters you've had on. I know Gina McCarthy, former head of the EPA, Majora Carter. I'm trying to remember some of the others.
Yep, that's right. And Jeff Biggers was another one. He specializes in regenerative cities and sustainability in Appalachia. And then the other 2 were kind of internal people that are one staff person and one faculty member.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm trying to remember those as well. I think it was somebody from maybe your finance department or something like that.
No.
Okay. You tell me.
Social justice. Yeah, it was a faculty member in health sciences, and he focuses on social justice. Yeah.
All right.
And food insecurity. We run a food pantry out of our office too. There's, like many campuses across the country, a lot of students, faculty and staff are food insecure. And there was a demonstrated need here at Appalachian State, and we decided, hey, what the heck? We've got some extra space. We turned a conference room into a food pantry and a free store, and we've been running it now for 2 years, and it's unfortunately been very successful. It's used a lot.
Right. Yeah. One of those programs you're glad you have, but wish you didn't need, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, getting back to the podcast. So, again, I've been impressed with some of the people you've been able to talk to. And I think I've been struck most by the fact that, I remember Gina McCarthy really giving a true personal story about her journey through sustainability and her role in leadership. Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? I mean, what have you learned from talking to all these folks, or just generally in your work leading this department at Appalachian State?
Yeah, I mean, I believe that leadership is one of the big keys to, maybe us getting out of this mess one day, that we found ourselves in with almost 8 billion people on the planet and finite resources. Leaders all around the world, whenever they make a decision, in my opinion, there's going to be a sustainability opportunity. And so the more that we help our leaders understand their connection to sustainability, I feel like that they'll deepen their understanding, and that when they have to make decisions, the hope is that they will consider an option that is more sustainable. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. And so, I found in my work that I work with a lot of leaders. I'm very fortunate to sometimes work at a higher level, and I just try to help them understand their connection. And I love hearing people's story. If they connect because they love the woods, or they love to fish, or they love to paint, landscapes, or whatever it is, if they love animals, or if they, love food, or whatever their connection is, I love to hear those stories. I think it's important for people to understand their own kind of sustainability story, how they've come to either the social justice or the environment or economics, and all the different ways that we can connect. Hearing people's stories is their personal stories. I just find it fascinating. And I think it's really in my personality to try to get to the root of a person for whatever reason. I don't know. I'm always trying to make connections with people, I think. Asking their story is just fun and intriguing. And I've seen kind of aha moments within, my friends and colleagues and people that I'm, talking to about sustainability. They've, through these conversations, I've watched them make connections that they didn't make before, that they didn't kind of realize. You know what I'm saying? And, Yeah, so I just find it just fascinating.
Yeah, that brings us back to your comments earlier about the rural community, because, that sense of personal connection definitely seems to be stronger. I know growing up in rural Montana, that was the case. But there definitely also is this disconnect between the politics that we associate with those areas. And I'm not sure what that's all about, but I don't know, maybe you can speak more
I
to
think that those of us that were fortunate to maybe live more closer connected to nature, there's more of a chance that we never lost our disconnect to nature. So, you compare that to someone that was born in the middle of a city of 10 million people. And, maybe there's a park here and there or some trees here and there, but it's their connection to nature is vastly different to kind of how we grew up in a more kind of suburban areas, maybe that had more access to the woods, if you will, or some natural, feature, a water body, a creek, an ocean, or even a park that's close. I think that disconnect, again, is a key to why people don't care as much. I think when you ask people, of course, most people care about, each other, and we care about the environment. We don't want to ruin it. But that innate care, connection that I think that a lot of us have because we retain that connection over time is something that I think we can work towards rebuilding. We can do it with the design of our buildings. We can do it through the design of our cities and landscapes. That field, biophilic design is something that really attracts me. And I think it's a strategy that I'm interested in using more and more to help people retain their connection to the natural world.
Excellent. Well, I think that leads well into my next question, which maybe it's building on those personal relationships to some extent. But I wanted to ask you about being on the other side of the country from where I'm at and being in the deep in the heart of Trump country. What has it been like working in sustainability during this political moment that we're experiencing. I suppose, given all you just said about personal connections, perhaps you avoid politics or just work around them. But I'd be curious to hear just sort of how you've approached that, or, if things are different or if it's really affected you much at all.
Yeah. Our town was blue. Our county was red, and it's very typical to have the rural parts of North Carolina all went red. I've seen it mobilizing all kinds of people. A lot of people are frustrated. I think I've learned through this work to really focus on personal relationships and just really getting to know people. We need everyone's help. We need people on both sides of the aisle with every perspective imaginable, I think, to a certain degree. I mean, obviously, deep intolerance, I don't have a lot of patience for, but reasonable people that are smart and, that care about their families and their loved ones, typically care about the environment too. Building stronger personal relationships with people of, all religious and political persuasions and affiliations. That's where it's at for me and our sustainability efforts. Everybody's got a good idea. Everybody has had experience, with trying to recycle or trying to get access to clean water. Most people are frustrated with litter and pollution and things that marginalize them. So, it's pretty easy to find people that can help. So, you pay attention to the media and there's a lot to, be frustrated with, probably on both sides of the aisle. But being here in the trenches, I'm finding a lot of allies all over the place, in many places where I've least expected them.
Right. Yeah. So this doesn't sound like it's a left versus right kind of thing, but that much of the work you're doing just sort of transcends the politics of the day. Yeah,
it does. I just try to leave politics out of it. People can argue about politics on and on and on indefinitely. It's easier to find common goals and common ground and then build from there. I've been in sustainability long enough to be able to help people that maybe think of it as being pretty left, and to kind of understand a different perspective.
Right.
And we sometimes don't use the word as much, in certain conversations, but we've kind of reached a point, I think, here at the university where there's a lot of acceptance and people are understanding that it means just a lot of different things. It's not, as my boss likes to say, it's not just about solar panels and tiny trash cans. It's a lot more. It's about culture and it's about people and resiliency and so much more. So politically in a state as well, our state went red for the first time, like governor, House, and Senate, the first time in 100 years. But still, we've got a lot of allies all across the state on both sides of the aisle, and people are supporting us. So despite, the Trump era, we're still getting a lot of good work done. Yeah,
well, it certainly sounds like it. I appreciate all that you've shared so far, and I think that can serve as an inspiration for the rest of us, no matter what part of the country we live in. So as we're winding down here, we've talked about a lot of amazing topics, certainly the podcast and all the other great work you're doing out there. But is there anything I forgot to ask you about that you'd like to share?
Yeah. I just really appreciate your time. If I'm going to have the opportunity to use this as a sounding board, one of the things that has been just very rewarding recently is to watch our university's solar vehicle team progress and build their new car. It's called Team Synergy, and our new car that we're building is a coupe style. It's a 2-seater, so the whole kind of international solar racing industry is moving kind of away from that spaceship-looking George Jetson car to cars that people can imagine themselves driving. So our car is a 2-seater. It's a coupe, and we're kind of in the middle of its construction. Just finished all the carbon fiber in the body, and we're assembling all its parts. And we're racing this summer in Hastings, Nebraska, in the Formula Sun Grand Prix. And it's a track style race over 3 days. And that's a qualifier for the American Solar Challenge, which is from Omaha, Nebraska to Bend, Oregon along the Oregon Trail. And it is a partnership with the National Park Service. They're commemorating 50 years of their trail system, and we can't wait to compete this summer.
Oh, that sounds very cool. We'll have to get some links up on the podcast website for that.
Yeah, please do, because your followers can, or your listeners can follow us. The whole thing is GPS tracked across the country once we start in Omaha. And you can follow all the teams. Everybody can follow their favorite team. There's a lot of schools from around the world will be competing in both of those races. And then looking forward, the Super Bowl of solar racing is a World Solar Challenge that started 30 years ago in Australia. And that race is from Darwin on the north coast of Australia to Adelaide on the southern coast, over 3,000 kilometers through the outback. And our plans are to take our new car, which is named Rose, racing on solar energy, to Australia in the World Solar Challenge in 2019 in October.
Oh, that sounds so cool. And I think this only adds to the jealousy that a lot of other people are going to have about you and your job and all the cool things you get to work on. Sounds like you're a pretty busy guy.
I work a lot. Maybe next time we can talk about international stuff. I just got back from 2 weeks in Brazil.
Right. Yeah, well, we'll have to save something for the next episode, I suppose, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, anything else I forgot to ask you about?
Yeah, no, I think we covered a lot.
Great. Well, I will look forward to seeing you at ASHE this fall in Pittsburgh.
Yes, definitely. Our team will be there. So, yeah, we look forward to kind of the homecoming at ASHE every year.
Well, I'll look forward to that. Thanks again for coming on the show, Lee.
All right. No problem, Dave. Thank you so much.
That's it for this episode. To learn more, you can always see the show notes at our website at campusenergypodcast.com. You can follow us on Twitter. We are at Energy Podcast. This show is a free service, but if you'd like to support the show, please consider leaving a rating or review on iTunes, or just telling a friend about the show. As always, thanks for listening.